Guys, welcome back. Welcome to another episode of A Truth Bump. We are, of course, going to continue on our journey into, the next episode. So, the next episode today is all about intuition and the feeling. I would love to get you guys to be able to interpret the difference between intuition and the feeling. Yes, there is a difference. But before I do, guys, at this point, this is our 21st episode of A Truth Bump. So you guys have been continuously getting this every week. Originally, we started sharing these truth bumps every couple of weeks, but people were digesting them pretty quickly, and it didn't matter if they fell behind because they would just continue and pick up where they left off. So, I increased the quantity, the frequency to be weekly. So as we go on every week, I pick up where I left off. So where I left off is not necessarily the same topic, but I pick up the space of where I shared. And what I mean by the space is just, you probably notice compared to the third or fourth episode, we're dropping in deeper. And that's why I always recommend that you ensure that you listen to these episodes in order. It's going to be more supportive because every time I pick up where we left off, I'm assuming that you've done the previous episodes. So yes, today we're going to talk about intuition and the feeling, but at this point, I'd really, if you really want to take this to be able to integrate this in your everyday life, and you would love assistance with this, I would suggest my recommendation is to get assistance. And by assistance, I'm talking about a coach. Whether it's me or one of my facilitators that I have in-house. All my facilitators are in-house, just so you guys are aware. I may have other facilitators who I've trained in the past, and they're not working with me currently and they're doing their own thing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are in-house. So whether it's just as we take this content, deeper, it is going to be super supportive. Some of you are already in a group, so there's nothing to talk about. So I won't go on about this very for long. But there is people who are just listening to the Truth Bumps weekly. It's just going to be, and those who are part of a group know the power of being part of a group or having a coach or a facilitator supporting them through this on a weekly basis. So. Look, there are a few options, so I just kind of want to let you know there is options of working with me personally, working with me within a coaching group, and also there's also another version which is working with one of my facilitators in a group. So I just want to put that out there, especially as we drop in deeper. Especially if you started to go, oh yeah, but how does it apply to this? Or there's things that's moving inside of you. Like I like to call it the snap, crackle, pop. I get that from that Cocoa Pops ad. But there's snap, crackle, pops happening inside of you, and it's just you can feel like the feelings moving, and there's things that need to be released. There's things that need to be talked about. There's things that need to be expressed and clarified. I've always shared this work and supported people through it. I know there are people on the coaching app who are receiving these truth bumps and they're doing it on their own. And I made this available so people can do that because it is the most cost-effective way of getting into it. It's minimal cost to be able to do that. But if you can throw some more money towards it, some more commitment from yourself, it's going to be far more beneficial for you to be part of a coaching group. Anyway, I've said my piece, and I say that piece because I know we're dropping in deeper. We're on the episode 20. We've already started to drop in deeper, but we're on the 21st episode, I believe it is today. So I just wanted to put that out there. And just in case you were considering it, my work has always been designed to be facilitated or coached or mentored with. It's I do my very best to make it digestible, but some of the things are just not digestible. And when it's not easily digestible. So if you want to, fast pace your digestion, if you like, of the content, and by what I mean by that is being able to be integrated so you can then live it. It's always been designed for you to do this with a coach, that be me or one of my facilitators. But like I said, I've made it available without a coach because I thought to myself, just it might be out of the reach of some people financially. So best value for your money is always to be doing this with a coach, with one of my facilitators, with myself. Or if that's just not possible, then continue doing what you're doing. And if there's anything that you guys need, reach out. Remember, email address is askaz, that's askaz@amirzogi.com. All right, guys, let's get into it. Apologies for I need to get that out there. I won't apologize, actually. But apologies for those who are already part of a coaching group and you're like, yep, we're already part of a group. So anyway, let's get right into it. Intuition. Changing gears. Intuition and the feeling. All right. So first of all, yes, there is a difference. I don't typically share with people that there is a difference. And if I do, I don't typically go into it because, to talk about the feeling, you really need someone to grasp some of this work, and hopefully some of these truth bumps and some things have to have dropped in before you can kind of reveal some more. I love one of my favorite quotes from Buddha is teach them the illusion until they're ready for the truth. So that's what I do. I often talk about the intuition, but the intuition is only a very small drop of the truth here. And some people will make the intuition into, I don't know, the intuition is there to guide us. But let me just put it straight out. The intuition's you. It's you. And I mean, everything is you. If you want to look at this, it's just different layers of yourself. The feeling, is you. It's just the infinite version of you that is here to be born, and it is being born or recognized or realized as it is continuously expressed. So it's all you. The ego is you, and it's. If you look at this and everything that I share, the concept is all about oneness, and it's very difficult to comprehend. But here's a reminder for you: it's all you. Everything is you. Everything is about you. Everything is you. And but what we do is when we try to apply it into duality, which is all you also. But when you're trying to apply it in duality, we give power into things. Whether we're giving power to our ego, it's like, I didn't do it. My ego made me do it. It's like, that's what people do. It's like, well, it was my ego. It's like, or even my intuition, it's you. But again, it's like, I'm following my guide. I'm being guided, and I get it. I understand. But as long as you understand, and at this point that's the intuition is you, the feeling is you. But let's have a look at this, and this might be a bit of a longer session, and so hold on to your hats. Might actually go over 2 sessions. We'll see how it goes. But when you first came and did some of my work, we spoke about the difference between an emotion and a feeling. And at first people go, what? Emotion and feeling are the same. And by now, you would know that there is a difference between an emotion and a feeling. And an emotion, just as a reminder, is a reaction that you're having to the thoughts you're having. It's a reaction you're having to how you perceive your world, how you perceive what's happening, how you perceive your circumstances. It's always a reaction. Okay. And it doesn't have to be a big reaction. People, usually visualize, this big reaction, like, the kid throwing out the toys out of the bathwater kind of reaction. No, it's just little, it's just, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. I don't like this person, I like this person. These are all reactions, and it's reactions based on your preference. Your preference of your identity, and and the feeling. It's not a reaction. An emotion is a reaction to your thoughts. It's a reaction to your circumstances. It's a reaction to your story. That's an emotion. A feeling is not a reaction. It's not even like people go, well, it's a response, is it? No, well, it's not even a response. A feeling is there because it's there. A feeling presents itself, when we say love is, and then period, full stop. There's nothing else after love is. The truth is, it's for anything that you put after the full stop, it is not that. So, when I talk about love and I say you love someone, there's no reason for what you love. We've talked about this in the last couple of truth bumps. There's no reason. The feeling has no reason. It's there because it's there. And if you want to, give it a purpose, because that's what we do in our intellectual mind, we want to give it a purpose. Well, what's the purpose of the feeling? What's there to be expressed? It's there. It's the infinite version of you presenting itself to form in your physical world, your duality. Now, do you think to yourself, well, how can the infinite version of myself form in duality? Because in duality, the moment it's duality, there's no infinite. It's a state of mind. The infinite version of you is a state of mind. And every time you are expressing the feeling, not just recognizing the feeling, but expressing the feeling, whether that's a love that you realize that you have for someone. Like you guys have heard me before. You don't decide who you love, you realize who you love. You don't decide what you love to do, you realize it's all the same. It's all a feeling. Okay? If you have decided who you love, that's not the feeling. If you have decided what you love to do, that's not the feeling. Because if you've decided, then there's a reason. Right? Right. When I say you, I'm talking about you as this small you, as the identity, as the intellect only. If you've decided, then you're like, well, I'm going to do this because it's going to give me benefits, or it's going to take me away from fear or from harm or whatever. Okay, so I don't need to go on about this perhaps, because I guess I'm just reminding you about this, and through that reminder, I understand it's dropping in for you right now, isn't it? Because I feel you, even though you're not. I feel you in my feeling. It's quite amazing. I know you're not listening to this in the same moment in time, but what you got to understand is that the moment of time itself is an illusion. That's the matrix itself. Time is the matrix itself, which, again, another conversation for another day in the future. But perhaps that conversation has already been had, and in the future we are just realizing that conversation. But anyway, let's not get too deep, right? Let's just try to keep this simple. That's what I've been intending to do, is to make this practical and keep it simple for you guys. So I just wanted you to identify a little bit about the difference, between an emotion. I'm getting you guys to remember an emotion is different to the feeling. But at first, when you first came across this work, you assumed it was the same. I mean, I've never really heard anyone else say it the way I've said it yet. But I mean, if we look at love and lust, if you want to go even before you even came across this work, at first, when you were younger, love and lust were probably the same thing. But at some point, as you became wiser and more experienced, you realize that love and lust are not the same thing. They're actually two worlds apart. Well, I'm saying the same thing with you guys here. The feeling and the emotion is different, and intuition and the feeling are different. So let's start. Well, how are they different? Well, you see, your intuition is your interpretation of what's happened in the past. Yes, it is a, people like to say it's a GPS. Yes, but that GPS, if you look at a GPS, it had to be programmed. Somebody had to program the GPS, and what I'm saying to you is that you programmed your GPS. You're programming your intuition all the time. So your intuition is not completely from the unknown. The feeling is completely from the unknown. It has no agenda. It has no reason for its existence. And it's the most potent, most powerful force that you have access to. And I just hope when you feel something, because a feeling is love, it's infinite. I just hope for you that you do not reject that feeling and you do not deny that feeling, because it's far and few. Intuition is there all the time. It can be there all the time, but the feeling, it presents itself, it's more rare and it's more precious. It's like love. How many times do you fall in love in your life, right? And I'm not talking about just romantic love. It might be you fall in love with what you do, or you have a moment of love with nature, or it's love with your children, or it's far and few. It's less and it's more special. And I just hope that you would never deny that feeling, because when you're rejecting that feeling, you're rejecting yourself. You're rejecting the infinite version of yourself that is present for it to be born, for it to be realized, for it to be recognized. And I just hope for you that you never reject that part of you, because there is no greater rejection than rejecting love itself. So, intuition. Intuition is, I'm using the known and the unknown here to get you to grasp what I'm saying. Of course, the unknown is infinity itself. If you've done the work, you understand the identity views the unknown as something bad because it doesn't understand it. It interprets it as something is missing. Oh, there's something missing in my life. I need to fill the void. That's how the identity, which you then call your ego, because that part of you that views it that way then becomes your ego. That part of you is viewing that as something's missing, something's like it needs to be, there's a void that you need to fill. And of course you go and try to fill that void within, whether it's, it's through your addictions, it could be through sex, through alcohol, through food. It could be your next goal. That's an addiction itself. Oh, my next goal is going to get me there. My next million, or, the next wife or the next husband or the next whatever. The moment you have a next, just understand right there, you have, the opportunity, or there is an opportunity for you to fill the void because you feel like there's something missing. Now, of course, that void is what I commonly refer to as the emptiness. And that emptiness, if you've experienced, allow yourself to go into that emptiness, you feel very full. So I refer to that as the fullness of the emptiness. It's when empty becomes the new full. Of course, what that fullness is infinity itself. So the emptiness is not a void that we are there to fill. It just depends who's looking at it. If it's the ego looking at it, it looks at it as something's missing and there's a void and we need to fill it. But if it's your soul, if it's, the most complete version of yourself that views that, it's the fullness. It's infinity itself. And of course, that makes sense because it's in the nothingness that there is everything. It makes sense for oneness. Everything is there. Everything that ever was, everything that ever is, everything that ever will be is in the emptiness. And it's timeless. So everything that ever happened, everything that is happening, everything that will happen is happening in one moment. Mind bender, I know. But that right there is the unknown. And that right there is where the feeling arises in you to be moved as you. That right there is the feeling. Make no mistake. Intuition is different. Intuition comes from the known. Now, what I mean by that, it comes from your past experience. As you get older, as you get wiser, you pick up experience. You know not to just cross the road as you get older. I'm still trying to teach my children, you don't just run across the road. Doesn't matter what's across the road. Doesn't matter what you're trying to run away on this side of the road. You always stop and you look at both sides. That's just it's something that becomes part of their experience, right? So therefore, when they get older, that's been taught to them, their intuition always says, look. And they'll look. And of course, I'm about to take them to the States. In about 8 weeks, I'm going to LA, and for the first time, I'm taking the family to LA. I haven't been back there myself for 10 years, so I'm looking forward to it. I used to go there every month. Every single month I was in America for 2 years straight, but that's another story, maybe for a podcast rather than a truth bump. But anyway, in America, we're going to tell the kids to, instead of looking left, you're going to be looking right when you cross the road. Other way around. Instead of looking right, you're going to be looking left. I'm getting confused already. Okay? It's now your radar's got to change because the cars are on the opposite side of the road to us. Do you understand? So that always becomes ingrained and that becomes an intuition. Let's go into something more, a little bit more relatable. Or maybe not necessarily, not relatable is not the right word. It's just a little bit more everyday practical things. So I don't know. Let's have a look. When things happen. Here's a silly one, but it's still relatable. Sometimes maybe you were taught. I was taught. Never trust someone whose handshake is not firm. Okay, so every time and some of you go, well, that's always been true for me. Okay, I get it, right? All right, but this is what happens, okay? And that may be true. I'm not disregarding that, right? And I'm not saying it's true or not. That's not the point of the story here. The point is that, I got taught as a young child, you always give a firm handshake and you always I make eye contact with someone. And of course, I teach that to my son. He's 6 years old. I'm already trying to teach him that right now. And so if I come across someone who gives me who looks down, right, and doesn't make eye contact with me, or gives me a sloppy, loose handshake, I may then go, I don't trust this person, right? And then someone might say to me, well, why don't you trust them? I don't know. It's just a gut feel. It's intuition. You see, that's intuition. Okay? Yes, it's a feeling that you have, but that feeling has come from things that you've experienced in the past. And what I've experienced in the past is that I got taught that if someone goes to shake my hand, they don't make eye contact, and they don't give you a firm handshake, then don't trust them. That then became true for me. It was true. I noticed that was actually true, right? Now, when I go and meet someone, I may not even notice that they didn't do a firm handshake, right? But my intuition is like, I don't know about this person. Okay, so I'll give you another example just so you can really relate to this. You're off traveling, okay? I'm about to take the family out, and like I said, we're going to LA. So let's just go. I go to LA, and I'm driving in the car, and somehow I get lost, and I start to see the neighborhood changes, right? And there's things I see, and it's like, you're driving through Beverly Hills and then you're driving somewhere else, and it's just, it looks different. There's graffiti everywhere. There's closed down shops, and there's, do you know what I mean? Like you start to get a vibe, right, from that. And I don't need to go to the full story there. Like, it's just, you're like, oh, I got a bad feeling we're in the wrong place. I got a feeling we took the wrong turn. Okay, so again, that is from the known. It's what I know. What I know it should look like. What I know it shouldn't look like. Maybe you're walking down the street one night and it's nighttime, and you're in a city that you're not familiar with. And as you're walking down this street, the street starts to get tighter and darker and narrower. And and it's not like, it's just like, you're unfamiliar with this place, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I shouldn't keep walking down this little alley. And you think to yourself, why do I feel, you might say to yourself, I feel I should walk back, right? And you go, well, that's my intuition. And it is, because you have enough experience, enough streetwise, enough wisdom for you to understand that that's maybe not the safest place for you to be right now. Okay, the street's getting more narrow, it's getting more darker, you're unfamiliar with where you're at. Maybe I should turn around and go the other direction. You see, all that's intuition. And people will say, I got a gut feel, I got a hunch, even athletes, an athlete who plays instinctively, they've got this plan of what they're going to do, where the ball's in. I'm a big rugby league fan. For those who don't know, that's one of the biggest sports in Australia. If you're watching this in the US, the football that don't wear helmets, don't wear shoulder pads, in case you're listening to this in America. In case you're listening to this in Europe or England, it's the football that's oval shape. It's not round shape. Anyway, I'm being a smart ass. But so, this is a team sport. And if you have the playmaker who comes out, there's a plan that they're going to go hit the left side of the field because there's weakness there. But if they come out and they can see there's weakness, or there's someone out of breath in front of them to the right, even though they plan to go to the left, and they can see someone's got fear, or someone in the defense hasn't stepped up because they're exhausted, they bang, go that way. And then what people will say, and then of course they do this miraculous thing and they break through the defense and they score, and people will say, well, it's because they're such an instinctive player, they're an intuitive player. And they are, and that is your intuition. But your intuition can read what's happening, and it's like, I'm planning to go left, but I'm going to go right because I saw what I just saw, defense. There's weakness here. There's uncertainty in the defense. So they go that way. But you see, that's all from the known. It isn't from the unknown. You ask anyone who's a mentalist. Yeah, I used to love that movie, the TV show, The Mentalist. I forgot what the Aussie actor, his name was in it, but damn, I forgot his name. But anyway, he was sitting next to me once in a coffee shop in Sydney. But anyway, that's another story. But forget his name. And it doesn't really matter. The point is, anyone who's a mentalist, right? They read the situation. In fact, anyone who's an intuitive, yes, you'd like to say that you know because because you're just so intuitive and you're so connected at a higher frequency, and that makes you feel more, I don't know, spiritual, more connected, and people will think more highly of you, right? Right there, if you ask, if someone can actually stop and be honest with themselves, whether they're a mentalist or an intuitive, you can break it down and you can see very clearly why you know. You know because you're your superpower is not that you can read people's minds, or you can tell what's happening as a mentalist, and it's that your superpower is that you are super present and you can read what's happening. It's coming from the known though. The athlete is super present and they can see there's weakness in the defense and they change the plan. They change where the ball was going to go because they're following their feeling, but their feeling comes purely because they are super present and they can read their situation. It's the same for someone who is an intuitive or is a mentalist. And I know I won't have everyone agree with me with this. And I will say this at this point. We'll come back to the feeling in a moment because, yes, there may be some people who are truly, truly remarkable and are truly, truly intuitive, and it truly, truly comes from the unknown. That is the feeling, yes. But what I'm giving you the example of right now, it's all intuition. Okay? And it's not, intuition, being intuitive is amazing. It's a great ability. So I'm not putting this down. I'm just trying to say to you that there is a difference. If you're studying this work, if you're studying yourself, it's time for you to recognize that there is a difference between intuition and feeling. And it's not better or worse. It's just intuition is a deeper layer. You've just gone deeper. Okay? So that's the difference. I've given you as many reference points as I can come up in this short amount of time with the difference between the feeling and intuition. But if I can put it, if you can just highlight, like if you had to answer the question in an exam that I gave to you at the end of this truth bump, the difference is that the feeling is coming purely from the unknown. There's no reason. It's the unknown, right? The intuition is coming from the known, right? It's still a feeling though. It's not an emotion. It's still a feeling. Let's make that clear, right? But it's like a fragment of the feeling. And it's a fragment because it's not fully from the unknown, because the feeling itself is completely from the unknown. It's like a fragment, a spark, right, from the unknown. And then with that spark, you have all these reference points of why this intuition feeling is the truth for you. That's probably the best way. I'm probably confusing it now by giving the analogy of the spark. All I'm saying to you is it is the same. It's not an emotion. Well, that's what I'm making clear here. Your intuition is not an emotion. It is a feeling. But when I say the feeling, and I'm talking about love, and I said, don't you ever not follow that feeling, because that feeling right there, it's like it is the whole. It is the most complete version of you, that it is here to be born. It is here to be recognized. It is here to be shaped into duality, right? That is completely from the feeling. That is just it's a deeper level. And it's not, some people tap into that. We all do. When you love someone for no reason, when you realize what it is that you love to do, right there is the feeling. So So that's the difference. The difference is that intuition is coming from the known. The feeling is coming from the unknown. And I've given you as many reference points of the intuition. Maybe I can give you some more reference points of the feeling, but it's, and it's not for this episode anyway. But you can see why I said at the beginning, it's time for you to consider to be or to continue this path with a coach. It's just time for you to consider it, because there's so much conversation to still be had here. I mean, by all means, you need to obviously listen to this a number of times. I feel if I was in your shoes, I would be listening to this a number of times for it to really drop in, because it's like, I feel that there is more reference points that you require around what the feeling is. I've given so much along this path. I mean, the very first truth bump I gave you is what the feeling is. I give you one more thing around the feeling, but what I was going to say there is that the feeling is, the reference points that you'll find that is most, is the strongest, is the reference point that you find for yourself when it comes to the feeling. And it's, when it comes to the feeling, it's purely unknown. It's purely knowing in the unknown. And in the intuition, there's still a feeling, but there's a knowing. I know not to cross the road this way. I know not to go down this alley. I know not to trust this person. I know the result and outcome from me going and chasing whatever it is. It's like, I don't feel to go and chase this anymore. And it's because you've done it so many times, and you've banged your head against the wall and you fell on your ass so many times, not to chase it anymore. But you'll go, and you have a feeling, I don't want this anymore. And I might say, well, how do you know? You go, just intuitively, I know. That's intuition. Yeah, you know, but that knowing has come from what's happened in the past. That knowing has come from your experience. That knowing has come from your streetwise. It's come from your wisdom. So I'll share with you one more thing before we wrap up. And I may have shared this in Truth Bump number 1, but it's a good reference point, good reminder. I sometimes, if I had a coaching group right now talking about this, I would ask them. I would say, well, why do we follow the feeling? And of course, usually as we discuss this within a coaching group or a one-on-one coaching client, if I ask this question, usually they'll find a reason of why they follow the feeling. And, that reason will be, it's keeping me safe. Or it's leading me to what I love to do. It's so I can live the life that I came here to live. It's so I can do what I love to do. Like this, it's so I can be my purpose. And there's all these different things that people will say. But ultimately, I'll share this with you, and I'll let you go mull over it, digest it, ponder on it for yourself, or bring it up in coaching groups if you're part of a coaching group. The reason you follow the feeling is that every time you follow the feeling, you become more familiar with it. Every time you follow the feeling, it's not about the result or the outcome. It's that every time you follow the feeling, you become more and more familiar with it. It's like, yeah, there it is. Like right now, I am so looking forward. I say it that way because it's been over 10 years, truly, like since I've truly got up on stage and delivered, the work that takes me to the deepest place okay, which is the WTF. In this case, this event has been rebranded as Limitless, and it has changed a little bit and all that, but it's still going to be sharing from that same space. And I love that so dearly because it's not about what happens. It's not about the results. It's not about how it changes and impacts people's lives, although it does, and that is amazing itself. It's all about who I become when I'm up on that stage. It's and I'm so looking forward to being there because it's even sharing this with you, it is about who I'm becoming. But there's something. It feels mystical, but it's just magical. When I'm delivering the complete picture, called the WTF. Anyway, I've gone a little bit off track there, but so we were talking about the feeling and why we follow the feeling, and every time I follow the feeling, I'm going to bring this back to myself here for a moment. Every time I follow the feeling, that feeling or that space or who I'm being, I just referred to that when I'm on stage, it becomes more and more familiar. So, you're not second guessing it. It's almost like you don't even have to look for it. It's there. It becomes familiar. And as you continue to follow the feeling, as you continue to hear the feeling, as you continue to listen to the feeling, as you continue to express the feeling, as you continue to share it through your ideas, through what you're creating in your manifesting in your reality, you start to become the feeling. As you become more and more familiar with the feeling, you become the feeling. Now, don't get me wrong, there's all these amazing things that are happening as you're following the feeling, as you're expressing the feeling. All these, I don't know, you can look at the outcomes and the results, but it's not about that. We think, because we always in the mindset of duality, which is a means to an end. So you think you're following the feeling because it's going to create something amazing for you. But you're missing the most amazing thing that is being created here, which is you becoming one with that feeling. Ultimately, we follow the feeling because we're becoming one with the feeling. Ultimately, you're following the feeling because you're becoming the feeling. Being an infinite being and the infinite version of yourself in a finite world. I said before, it's a state of mind. You become the feeling. That's a state of mind. Love is a state of mind. Infinity is a state of mind. My question to you, because you've been so used to following things, whether it was I was following my ego, I was following my intuition, I'm following my feeling, I'm looking for the next thing to follow, right? When you become the feeling, who are you going to follow next? What are you going to follow next? I'll leave that for you to ponder on. But my version of why we follow the feeling is because we're becoming it. It becomes so familiar to you that you become that feeling. You don't become just one with it. You become it. So then what are you going to follow? See you guys next week.